Lemni, and I'm here to show you Horologium. As you can see, we're gonna start here with the rock people, and by the way, this demo is an art demo, so there's no actual functionality yet, but there are a lot of hidden stories that I've placed inside here. So, this tour is for people who either missed the main art demo, or for people who have Mac, because we have not compiled for Mac yet, unfortunately. So, as you can see right here, there's a bunch of people all gathered around this rock. This rock is special because it's a symbol of their hometown. Every time they come back from this road down to the other village, they see this rock, and it reminds them of being home. So they all gather around and worship the rock. And this guy down here, seeing that everybody's worshipping the rock again, is like, oh, I must join. And the lady up here is like, why are these guys all surrounding the rock again? It's just a dumb rock. She doesn't get it. She's not down with the youth. Further down here, you can see more people returning from the other villages. These people here are talking to each other like one of those long-lost reunion scenes. They haven't met each other in a very long time, and they're finally getting to have a nice, lengthy conversation. Then on the left side here, we have this lady and her brother, and this horse right here. Now you may be wondering, why does this horse have a question mark? And it's because these two people over here are trying to capture the horse. However, they have no idea how capturing horses work, so their plan is to tie the horse up with this rope and shove it into a sack, which is definitely not how capturing horses work. But it's okay, guys. It'll totally work. I believe in you. This horse, however, is not so enthused about the plan, so it's having a question mark because it senses ominous intent from these two bushes. Then, even further to the left here, we have a villager who's in the middle of a giant picnic blanket full of food. He's got a lot of food because he's a big foodie and he just wants to eat his food alone in peace. And every time he eats his food in the village, everybody's always like, oh, can I have some? It looks so good. And he's like, ugh, I'm done with this. I'm going to lay my blanket out in the middle of these flowers where nobody will disturb my quality time alone with the food. So he's going to eat all this food all to himself. He is very good at eating. And up here we have a group of 4 ladies dancing and chatting in the flowers. And this poor lady over here wants to join them, but she's too socially awkward. She doesn't know how to initiate into the group. So she's just watching them, wishing that she had the courage to go off and talk to them. Very relatable. Over here we have a husband and a wife. The husband here has stored something very important inside this chest. It's something like their house keys, or like the keys to the warehouse, and the only problem is that he's known for losing things, and he can't exactly find the object he was supposed to find right now. So his wife is like, come on, man. I know you lose things all the time, but we kind of really needed that. Now we're gonna walk up here, and we're gonna see this angry lady who's basically doing the work, and she's always the fastest at putting down the seeds and tilling the ground, and she's always yelling at her poor husband and son to work faster. And she's always just in a foul-tempered mood because she's like, ugh, get on my level, noobs. None of you can even come up to my standards. And everybody around here is like, oh, it's this really strict lady again. We feel bad for her husband and her son, but we can't do anything about it. They are all full of pity for these poor people who must endure the wrath of this lady. Then all the way up here, we're gonna pull a Jesus real quick and just walk over the water. Haha. Over here, you can see these two couples having lovey-dovey hearts because they finished their day's work plowing all this field and taking care of the wheat. So they're gonna share a nice romantic couples moment looking out on the riverfront, like in those anime scenes where it's sunset and they lay it down on the riverbank. And of course, since the scene is so romantic and great. The guy over here is like, oh, it's the couple again. I see they're having a nice romantic time. And they're like, oh, we see them all the time. They're always like that. And this lady here thinks it's absolutely adorable of them to be so lovey-dovey all the time. So yes, a completely different vibe than the very strict lady all the way down there. The couple is a much better neighbor. Anyways, we're gonna come over here again, and all the way to the right here, we're gonna show you this building first, because this building here is the inn. And to the left side of the inn here, you can see this fenced-in area with horses is the stable. And inside the stable, there's there's one brother and a sister. And they're in charge of taking care of the horses and making sure everybody's animals are well fed and equipped for the travelers that stay at the inn. Now, the brother here is the one who's actually good at talking to animals and taking care of them. He's the one who makes sure everything actually gets done. If it wasn't for him, his sister would have been eaten alive by the animals a long time ago, because she's absolutely terrible at interacting with animals, even though she loves them so much. As you can see here, she likes this donkey a lot, but she has an abysmally horrible talent of patting animals exactly the way that they dislike it, so that they're always trying to murder her, and her poor brother has to come and save her from being literally mauled by donkeys and horses all day. But not all the animals inside the stable are so miserable and tortured by this poor lady. Some of the animals, like this horse here, are quite happy. They're just vibing to the beat. Disco horse, disco donkey, boinging to the beat. And as for more people over here, you can see these two travelers gathered in this kind of traveler pit stop area. They've got like a pot to boil the food, some seats and crates. And it's a nice place to sit down and stop for a chat. For example, if it was nighttime, then the torches would guide the travelers down, and before they head into the inn, they might prepare a quick meal, or they might just choose to stop here and not go in the inn at all. But these two people here are having a nice time, relaxing and enjoying a meal together by the fire while chatting about their traveler stories. Then we have the caretakers of the inn here. This lady here is a daughter of the people in the inn, and this guy's her brother, and he's fixing the fence and she's taking care of the flowers. Because as you can see, this inn has a pretty nice fence and walled garden. It is doing pretty well. And then you can see that there's another guy up here, deep in the flower fields, camouflaging with the flowers. If you think he looks like a flower, you would be right, because he believes in his soul that he is one of the flowers. You can even do an action here and water him, support his plant activities. You can be a plant if you want to, man. I believe in you. We've also got a few other actions that you can do here, which I will just take the time to explain since I'm at it. We can do like cutting down some trees. We can dig some ground. Let's not dig up the poor flower man. And we can do some crafting. And we can start a fire if we feel like being an arsonist. But there's no fire to be started, so don't worry, everybody's perfectly safe. Then we can also mine some flowers. Great. I love my stony hard flowers. But anyways, Flower Bro here is just totally chilling. If you talk to him, he'll just be like, I'm a flower, don't disturb me. Flowers don't speak. So you can just watch him vibe to the flowers. Later on, we might even have him wiggle side to side with the rhythm of the flowers. Here we have two guys engaging in the classic anime boys fight. Over here, this guy's like, I shall vanquish you, villain of the East. And this guy's like, no, I will not fall to you, demon of the West. And this guy down here, the only sane guy of the group, is watching these people like, why are you guys always like this? Come on. He's the one serious guy of the friend group, as you would say. Now we're gonna come over here, and we can see some people walking along the road as we pass by, and we're gonna go inspect this lady here. She seems to be digging very furiously into the ground. And the reason why is because her brother totally pranked her and told her there was very legit, definitely real treasure in the ground buried right in the spot. And so, like a very gullible person, she believed him and went to try to dig this ground up. She's so determined to find this treasure because she believes it will bring great benefit to her family. She will not dishonor her family. Although, she might be very trolled by her brother. Now, down here we have this massive group of people sleeping in the forest, and it's the counterpart to the rock worshippers we started off with. And these people are like, you know, the rock is great and all, but you know what's even better? Nature and trees. We respect and honor the forest every day by taking naps in the middle of this tree grove. It is very relaxing and shady. However, these two people here, they're like the childhood friends who sneak off, and they've decided that they'd much rather have a great time talking to each other than just sleeping in the forest. So this girl here is always very excited to have time to talk to her friend, and the guy here is a little bit panicking because he's a little bit more concerned, and he's not as reckless and energetic as this friend here. Now we're gonna just casually walk over these buildings. Don't worry, nothing to see here. Collisions will be added later, but for now you can just Jesus and fly across all the buildings as you wish. But unfortunately for the villagers, this guy here is not capable of floating on the water because he is pretty much like a cat. He likes to sit in the boxes and just kind of fall asleep in them. But this time, he's gotten himself into a box that floated down the river, and his sister here has to come and catch him with a fishing line because he'll float away otherwise. She's always having to fish him out of weird and unexpected box spots. If only he were Jesus, then he wouldn't have to worry about drowning. And this poor friend here, with the sweat marks on her head, is always like, I just want to chill with my friend, but my friend always has to rescue her dumb brother. Can her brother just not get into trouble for like 2 seconds so I can actually spend some time with my friend? She's very done with the ridiculous brother. And then here, we have some more done people. Only this time, it's this wife here who's really, really into weaponry and testing out knives and axes and sharpening weapons of all various kinds. And she's super excited, so she's calling for her husband, who happens to be, unfortunately, the target of her weapon testing most of the time. And she's like, honey, it's time for your daily axe sharpening. And he's like, yes, I'll be right there, totally. And he's trying to hide from her because he's very much afraid of her and her axe-swinging tendencies. But here we have a lady who's been blessed with the power of building, like we have. She can always climb onto buildings with her trusty ladder, and she likes to climb on them and witness the great and grandiose view of the village. However, her mother's not so enthused about her climbing on the buildings, and she's always trying to scold her for getting herself into trouble and potentially dangerous situations. And her father here is trying desperately to craft something that will help her get down. He's a bit more intimidated by heights than the mother is, but basically this lady's like, Mom, you should come up here, it's great, totally. And she's like, no, I will not do any such thing, young lady. Get down here this instant or you're grounded. And she's like, Mom, you just gotta get on my level. Then here we have a small crafting station next to all of these warehouses, and as you can see, there's a lady gathering materials from the sacks to feed into the kiln, and there's a guy who's maybe a little bit delayed in his blacksmith order, so he's panicking a bit as he's trying to do his work very quickly. But here we have another bro who's come out of the warehouse, and he's speechless because he has hidden some very embarrassing content in the warehouse, the nature of which shall not be disclosed, except he's gone in there to check if it's still there, and he cannot find it. So he's like, oh no. Who knows? Somebody has found my stash. This is not good. And we've got a guy who's like the light bearer, the flame keeper of the village. He goes around and just repairs the torches and checks that they're in good working order. And he enjoys his days bringing light to the masses. He feels very passionate about his fiery work. He burns with flaming passion. But yes, that is his job. It may be a mundane job, but jobs are what you make of them. Speaking of jobs, all these people are unfortunate laborers of this large manor house here, and this guy here is the owner of the house, and he's like, it surely is a great joy to enjoy capitalism and watch all these workers working for me. While he does not treat his workers too poorly, they are still workers after all, and he gets to just sit around and watch them as the workers spend all day tending these crops. Not a great deal for the workers, but not the worst deal, I suppose. I mean, they could be dead, they could be suffering more, but at least they're alive. Speaking of death and destruction, we have this soldier here. He came back from the front lines of the war, and he's one of those classic I've seen things guys. He's like, I left my family behind for this. I abandoned my childhood to serve in the military. Was it all worth it? I don't know. And he's busy monologuing to himself all day, pretty much. It's a very depressing work environment for these poor people having to sit in this field all day. Although, he's not too loud, so he shouldn't disturb them too much. Then down here we have this guy who I just walked a absurd loop to get to when I could have just walked down. But that's okay, more scenery. We have this guy here who's trying to get water, and he's basically just in charge of obtaining water to supply all the crafts and any possible animals that need to drink water. Then here we've got more hard-working denizens of this city. We've got two guys heading off to work and exchanging some greetings. The guy on the right here has unfortunately left his lunch at home in his attempt to go and get to work and meet his friend. So his wife here is rushing after him and trying to give it to him. Like a very nice family. They are very wholesome. Then here we have some more people getting to work, and this spinning lady here. She's spinning next to this small mage staff here because she's essentially like Fischl from Genshin Impact. She's like, I must summon the Dark Lord. He will grant me immortality. This mortal life is not for me. I was destined for something greater, for I am the Princess of the Darkness. But yes, she's very intense. Then we've also got another intense lady here who is just very intensely simping for this poor dude. And this poor dude is like a nice guy, but somehow he's like subconsciously attracting the attention of this girl, and he really does not want to. He's like, I'm kind of afraid of how deeply obsessed this girl is of me, but I don't know how to get rid of it. I'm stuck in a very difficult situation. Then here we've got a thing which I'm sure you've been wondering about. We've got this lady talking to a tree. It is as it appears. Indeed, this tree is capable of speech. It is the modern Shakespeare of its ages. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a tree that's like 13 years old, and it's angsty about 13-year-old tree problems. It's like, oh no, what if I'm too twiggy? What if my leaves are too bushy? Nobody will like me. The other trees will scorn me. I will be despair forever. I'm 13, and this is deep. And this lady here is trying her best to console this poor, poor tree who's having a 13-year-old midlife crisis. And stay tuned for part 2 of the tree speaking series. The lady's brother here, the bush speaker. Now this bush here, this bush is completely the opposite of that tree. This bush is extremely, extremely confident in itself. This bush is so confident in itself, it's like, I am the best bush. Nobody bushes like I bush. I'm the whole reason anybody comes to see this forest. It's all because they want to see such a great bush as me. Why else would anybody visit this forest at all? And this guy's totally buying it. He's like, yes, bush, you are indeed very majestic. Then here we've got a lady with a question mark trying to play hide and seek with all these people who are hiding from her in the forest. It's a common pastime of the children villagers in here. and up here a little bit to the north is the classic anime love triangle style scene where there's two guys competing for this girl's attention. And the contest they've decided on today is that they're going to chop down trees. Never mind the fact that this lady doesn't know what to do with all these logs. They are very into chopping the trees. They're like, I will chop down all the trees to win the lady's heart. The trees will fall, and so will the lady. And this lady's like, well, I appreciate your intent. I really don't know what I'm going to do with all these logs. Because there's a massive pile of logs inside here, there's logs piled up all around her, and there's bound to be more logs by the time they're done with all of their tree chopping endeavors. Now last but not least is my favorite villager of them all. He's this guy stuck in the water here because he took a nap on the shore here, and he stepped a little bit too long, and the tide changed and flooded him. But the thing is, he's deathly afraid of water, and he doesn't know how to swim, so he's sitting here like, water doesn't exist, water can't hurt me, water isn't real. And he's utterly immobilized by the sheer amount of water around him, so he's just sitting very still and hoping the water will just go away. Now you can try to use your start fire action, and it looks like you're swimming, so you can teach him how to swim. Or you can be completely rude to him and just like, be like, I heard you like water, how about some more of it? Or you can try to dig him out of the water, which will definitely work because, as everyone knows, water is a solid diggable substance. Or you can mine the water. Or I suppose you could cut water. I suppose. Although maybe it looks like you're just cutting him. But anyways, this is my favorite guy to bully. You can pretend to interact with him a lot, and he'll just continue to sit here in utter shock and despair. But yeah, that is about it for now. In the future, you'll be able to look at the villagers and you'll be able to see the stories without me explaining it to you. But for now, this is the guided tour of the village. And one last thing I should mention is the name of the villager here, called Purveyor of Cloth. It's called the Purveyor of Cloth because at the beginning in my server, which I run with my game guild, they call this game the Naked Man game. They call it the Naked Man game because at the beginning we did 3D before we switched over to 2D. And the 3D mannequin we used didn't have any clothes on it because it was just a mannequin, obviously. And because of that, everybody said I was making a Naked Man game, and somehow the name has stuck so hard that the game is now forever Naked Man game in my mind, even though its real name is Horologium. And to honor that, we've named this character Purveyor of Cloth. I wanted to name it Clothed Man, but Canoe said no. Clothed Man would have been great though, because people would have heard Clothed Man, and they would have thought, why is it named Clothed Man? Clothed Man implies the existence of Naked Man, which would be absolutely correct, because that's what I want them to think. Unfortunately, Canoe has suppressed my chaos. I will remember this, Canoe. I will not forgive the suppression of chaos so easily. Next time, there shall be even more chaos. You can look forward to it. But that's all for now. Bye-bye.